You mentioned like when you're training with your clients, sometimes you'll have to take like a day off after because it's just so intense, right? Is that just because you're taking more sets to failure and it's just more aggressive in that sense from the effort standpoint? Or is it the loads that are beyond what you would normally do, or the volume even? Like it's just more volume? What is it specifically where you feel like you need that extra day of rest after?
Yeah, it's a combination of both. So during the week when I'm training kind of by myself, I have a very busy work schedule because, I'm a contractor working for a high level company. And so it's more brain work and I'm like fatigued and tired. And by the time I'm finished with my work, I only have maybe an hour or so in the gym to just hit it and get home, get spend time with the wife and get ready for the next day. But on the weekends or maybe some days, maybe 1 or 2 days during the week, when I train with my client, we're in there for, nearly 2 hours and there's a lot of volume. For him being in prep, I got to push him and then I'm pushing the other guys. Like I'm spotting them and screaming at him. And then my set's coming up and sometimes they'll do that for me. And so it's a whole new level of emotions that's coming out for us to push to the next level. So with that, I definitely need that next day off just to kind of refuel and get my body back so that during the work week, I can get right back there on my normal routine.
With your normal routine, let's talk about that. So last time we spoke, you were typically doing like one body part per training session. So you would hit like chest, the next day you might do back, the day after you might do legs. Are you still doing that sequence when you're on your own?
Yeah, it's pretty similar now. And now that I'm actually training with the clients, I'm trying to tailor that to their workouts. So I always talk to them and say, hey, what do you got coming up with this when we're going to work out together? And because of that, I've actually started to double up some of my workouts. So just like the other day, I actually made it shoulders and triceps. So it's mainly like a push, semi push, not with everything. I didn't have chest in there, and back and biceps. Legs are always by themselves, but I would double up workouts so that I can honestly get them in twice a week. So I'm hitting everything twice a week, which is crazy. And I'm getting those 6 day a week workouts. Luckily on Saturdays when I work out with them, which is today, I'll be able to take Sunday off and just really, really rest. But today we're hitting arms. So it shouldn't be too hard. It should be a fun workout, but it's still going to be a lot of volume. But yeah, I'm more of a two body part a day workout person, and legs are by themselves.
Right. So you would combine like chest with maybe a smaller body part and then back with
Correct.
this. Right. Right. Okay. But there
Yep,
was
yep.
one point where you were doing one body part. Do I have that
Yes.
right? I remember.
Yeah, you
Okay.
do. Yep. You have that right. And that was more so I can really focus on that one body part and destroy it as best I can and let it heal up. But now, like I said, I don't have that luxury because I'm trying to make sure I hit everything twice and then be ready for my clients.
Got it. Yeah, your priorities have shifted also right now, so that makes
Yeah.
complete sense. With
Yes.
regards to the failure training, I'm curious about that now. You're older now. Let's say you're not training with your clients because naturally you probably are getting pretty intense with it, like you mentioned. But if you're on your own, are you training to failure still? Like, how's your effort level with your sessions? Because obviously you mentioned you train like for 1 hour usually. Again, not when you're training with your clients. Is training with your clients, is that only on Saturdays typically?
Typically, it's twice a week. So I have 2 intense days of workouts, and then the other 4 days will be just on my own, which are definitely less intense. They're not as hardcore. I mean, but it depends too, because if I'm feeling very energetic after work, I can go in there and have a pretty intense workout, which is usually earlier in the week, because as the week goes along, I'm tired, I'm more fatigued, and I'm just trying to get through get through the day. Not to say I'm not intense, because I definitely get my pre-workouts in so I can be as hardcore as I can, but it's just not the same where I'm pushing for that extra rep. I get my whatever is typically for that set and then I'm done. And I really don't even count, to be honest with you. If I'll go in there, do a set, I just go until failure, but I don't push beyond that.
So typically, if you're going for that extra, yeah, you're giving it that little extra intensity when you're with your clients, you'll sometimes maybe throw in what, like forced reps, drop sets, these types of things where it gets more aggressive with the intensity of effort.
Exactly. I mean, the workouts that I give them, they're tailored to that. So I've always got some drop sets, giant sets, super sets, so that, we did a typical chest workout where we'll do dumbbell presses or dumbbell incline presses. Once you're done that till failure, you drop the weight and then you'll grab some little bit smaller weight dumbbells and do flies. And that's going to be till failure as well. And then you also have time under tension where you're going to do with the flies, you just bring them out, hold it there for 3 seconds, and then come up for 3-0-1 type tempos that we'll do. So different tempos, different rep speeds, you name it, we'll throw those in there, and it definitely makes a difference. You'll just feel that extra stretch. So you're just getting more recruitment of work there. And that's good for my client because he's a younger guy that doesn't know why he's feeling the way he feels. And I'm saying, hey, this is the reason why. That's why we do these different rep tempos, different drop sets and things. So he's getting more educated, and it's also helping me to get back to the way I used to be when I was younger and able to train with other people.
So when you're by yourself, typically you'll put some of that intensity on the shelf for the most part. Sometimes you're feeling extra good at the beginning of the week, you'll throw a few things in, but for the most part, maybe you'll take set to failure, and that's about as far as you go with the intensity.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, all I'm
Yeah.
trying to do is get a pump.
Yeah, yeah. Cool, man. This could be helpful because of course, there's people out there who are listening, maybe they have stressful jobs and they're getting down on themselves because they're not doing all these aggressive intensity things, these techniques, if you will. But there's a time and place to add it in. You fit it in on the days that make sense, and on the days where you don't have that, you're not trying to injure yourself. So you're adjusting that appropriately, right?
You hit it right on the head. My philosophy on that, it's just me. But the main thing is to be consistent. I think the reason why guys like myself and Marshall have been able to stay doing this and been able to do this for so long is because we know the time to crush it, and then we know the times just to get in there and stimulate the muscle. It's stimulate, not annihilate. I've heard a few people say that. And if you're consistent and you do it that way, there's so many people that crush it every single time. They feel like they have to just destroy their bodies. And those are the ones that are constantly injured. I'm not saying there's no benefit, but you get less benefit, in my opinion, if you're crushing it, you get hurt, and you're out of the gym for a month or two, and then have to start all back over again and repeat that process. I know people like myself and Marshall, we just don't really get injured. We have little small injuries, we can work through them because we're not working out as intense. And that's not to say that, you just got to throw around baby weight and not push yourself, but you push yourself to the point where you're at least getting that muscle fatigue, and you're not going to the point where you're going to injure yourself, and you're just going to get that good pump, and you'll feel good, and you leave the gym, you still feel sore, and that's it. And if you can throw those 1 day a week type of crazy workouts, it'll shock your body that one time, and then you get a nice little break, and you just start back over again.
Yeah, that's understandable. And we were talking last time, like for example, like Ben Howard, who's like training 3 days per week, for example.
Yeah.
Well, he's got 4 days of rest. It makes a big difference in terms of being able to maybe crush yourself in one session because you got
That's
so much
right.
other rest days. Whereas for
Yeah.
you, you're someone who likes to be in the gym more frequently, also from a psychological stand. Like there's so many moving parts here that I think people need to understand before they just start judging the situation, right? Because
Exactly.
that's a big thing, right? You mentioned you walk out of the gym and you feel good. You get that euphoric feeling we were talking about last time as well. There's a component of that matters. And if it fits in your lifestyle so nicely, why wouldn't you do it, right?
Yeah, I totally agree. When I heard Ben Howard's interview with you, I really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed, the scientific reasons why he does what he does. And of course, his lifestyle reasons. I think he had young children. So he's trying to make sure that he had the time off to spend with them, and then able to just go ahead and crush it. So, and Ben has got a beautiful, amazing physique. We're respectful fans of each other. And it just goes to show that there's no one size fit all training routine. You do what you can to fit your lifestyle, stay healthy, and make it work for you. And if you like what someone else is doing, you can try it. If it doesn't work for you, try something else. There's so many different ranges and ways of doing it. And of course, as you know, training is not the only component in this. It's like if you don't have the nutrition aspect and the rest aspect, you're going to be spinning your wheels and just getting that one thing done on a 100% level, but everything else is suffering. So
Last time we did speak, you were saying how you were going to maybe take it down to 4 days. Do you remember this? You were
yeah,
saying you were
I
going to
did.
take, did you? So you did that. What was that
I,
experience like for you?
It's one of those things where, just like we're talking now, I know that I love to be in the gym. Every time I try to just say, okay, you know what, I'm going to take this day off, spend time with my wife and do things, I would go home and just feel like something was missing. And I would feel more kind of like grumpy and tired because at my job, like I said, I do a lot more it's a desk job, thinking and trying to make decisions, and not being able to move around, get that pump or physical activity, coming home and sitting there by the TV and eating, that just wasn't me. I just didn't feel the same. And I think my body needs the daily just to do something, not just walking my dogs, but I need to be in there pushing weights and it just makes me feel better. So the 4 days a week I did for maybe 3 months, and I didn't see like a major either increase or decrease when it comes to like, muscle mass or size or strength or anything like that. I did feel like I was a little bit stronger in some lifts, especially my upper body push, because I was giving it more time off. But at the same time too, I felt like it took me a longer time to warm up, because at my age now, it takes me 3, 4, 5 sets just to get the tendons and ligaments warmed up enough, loosen up. And then I was like, oh, okay, now I can get my working sets in. And so working out only 4 days a week, it took me even longer to warm up, which is weird. So I love just going in there 5, 6 days a week. It's just the way I am.
With the effort, did you notice that like from an effort standpoint, you were able to put in more towards your sets with the less days, or was it also for you, you found there was no difference?
I can't lie, I felt like I was a little bit more rested. And I was looking so forward to going in the gym because I had this time off, that when I went in there, some of the workouts were a little bit more effort. I had more intensity and effort to it because I was rested. So the rest did do some good. Not for every single body part. I think it was the same when I did legs. Legs are always intense, whether I'm doing 5, 6 days a week or 4 days a week. But for the upper body movements, I could say I was definitely a lot stronger.
It's so interesting because it really is one of those things where like I can go in the gym and do what you were saying before, completely annihilate my system. And now I'm sure you can adapt, right? But I probably am going to need days, not one day, like days to recover. That's also a psychological thing too, I'm sure, because I think there's a resilience there. Like you were also in the Marines.
Marines?
There you
Yes.
go. There's a psychological component there that
Yeah.
you know that it's like, "Yeah, this is a workout. This is nothing compared to what I've been through." And I'm sure that's also plays a role to an extent. Would you say that's accurate?
That is so accurate. It's funny you say that too, because when I look at it, I've gone into the gym and I put my headphones on. I don't like to really talk to a lot of people, even though it's a packed gym and people come and ask me questions. But there were a couple of times where guys like, hey, can I jump in there and do it? And I'm friendly. So I was like, yeah, sure. And what is like a typical, just like not pushing myself to the high intensity to me versus someone else who's like a normal person? And they could be a hardcore person in the gym. For them, it'd be tough, even though for me, it's just average or normal. And I remember one guy, he always jokes with me in the gym. He's like, man, I still feel the leg workout that we did that one time from, back in the day, and I'm never working out legs with you. And it's just a normal workout for me, right? But for him, it was kind of a funny thing. We joke around it all the time in the gym, but it just shows you, like, depending on your level, what you may feel is something hardcore could be just average. And it could be because of your upbringing or your athleticism, whether you played hardcore pro sports or being in the military. The military, for me, like with the Marines, I mean, those guys, they go in there on a daily basis and just crush it, whether it's gym, whether it's just, force rough marks, 25-mile hikes, just the training itself. It pushes you to another level where your baseline now is a lot higher than the average person. And I know me, even when I came out from high school playing football, when I went into the Marine Corps, it's a whole new level. It's just like, they train you to have less sleep than normal and still be able to function and operate because you have to be in stressful situations. They push you beyond your limits. A 3-mile run is nothing to you. You push you to 5 miles and 10 miles and, the 25-mile hikes with ruck gear and weapons, and it's a lot. And so when you get that, your baseline of threshold of tolerance of pain and everything else is increased. And you carry that on through everything in life.
That makes complete sense. You really can adapt. You trained yourself from like a mentality, like your mentality to be able to tolerate or bring up your level of tolerance to a certain point where, heck, you could probably push yourself through all types of even injury to an. Now, I'm not saying that's good. I'm not saying that's good for you, but I'm saying that you could literally adapt to that point, right? You've probably seen stuff being in the Marines or heard stories at least where you have to do that, like that you're trained to do that, right?
Right. I think, with the Marine Corps, it's one of those kind of cultures where you have to fight through every single thing. And it's real, when you're deployed in, combat zones, there are people that are hurt and they're trying to, drag their buddies that have also gotten hurt. And those are the heroes, those are the warriors. Thankful for me, I didn't have to go through things that serious, but there are times when even in training, whether you're training, you train like you fight is what they teach you. And in training, you've got to do a fireman's carry with someone that might be hurt and pick them up over your shoulder and you're just walking with them and with your gear on. The more you push yourself, your body is an amazing machine that you can push through things that you normally wouldn't think you could. And that's why you see or hear stories about women, their children could be stuck in a burning car and they'll get superhuman strength, rip the door off and get their kids out, right? Because your body is pretty much as powerful as you want it to be if you will it to, so your mind is an incredible thing that if you continue to train and push yourself to those next levels, you can do it. And I feel that's really helped me in my career because I know that I've gotten stronger and stronger mentally and physically because of the fact that I've been in that kind of training in those kind of situations and stuff. So
That's amazing in terms of how that was put, because it also transfers to all other areas of life as well. Like if we're talking
yeah,
about you want to build a business or you want to be the best at whatever job you're trying to do, like it all boils down to your mentality, your mindset, right?
exactly. It's funny you say that. I've been experiencing that now. That's why I've been more busy with my job because I was promoted to a different position. And it's one of those things where I think they've seen in me that I'm always taking on new and new challenges just because I become one of those people that, not being a yes person per se, but I guess I am. But I feel that I'm taking on these things because I also want to grow and learn. I feel like as I'm getting older, I don't want to be to the point where I'm very complacent and don't have like the deal for life, which a lot of people, as you get older, you take the age for granted and be like, I'm too old. I can't do this. I can't do that. But as we know, especially in this business, look at all the guys who are in their 50s, 60s, 70s and still going. So I want to be that. That's my goal. I don't want to use a number of my age as an excuse for anything that's going on. I want to make sure I push myself in all areas of life and taking on these new responsibilities, helps me grow mentally. And I want to continue to grow physically as well and not use that age or injuries or anything as an excuse.
Oh, I love that. And it really does boil down to priority as well. Like, what are you making a priority? Like I was talking about before, like I would need, like, if I annihilated my system or whatnot, respectfully, of course, like we're not going in there purposely trying to injure ourselves, but like annihilate our system from just intensity, effort, volume, whatever it may be. Oh, I would need this many days off. Well, what are you prioritizing that maybe makes you think you need that many days off? Maybe you're focusing on other avenues of your life during that time. Like you mentioned with you versus like Kiyoshi, you said how Kiyoshi's like all in, like with the training, and now you're prioritizing some other aspects of your life at the moment, which has you
Right.
doing things a little differently. So it all depends on what's the main priority that you got going on in your life for the listeners who are tuning in, and then respectfully and appropriately address or cater to those things based on the goal, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. I feel, just like you were mentioning, am I going to compete again in the future? I truly feel that if I know that there's going to be a competition in the future, in my future, I should say, I can flip that switch to the priorities that I'm focused on now and make sure that I'm going towards, hey, this competition's coming up. Okay, I got to get in shape. I got to start waking up early and do my cardio. I got to focus on my diet. I've got to train with a little bit extra more intensity. And I can do that because of the fact that one, I've done it before and I've trained myself to be able to do that mindset wise. And that's something that if someone can do that in all aspects of their life, like you said, whatever you do, prioritize, you'll be successful in.
I love that. And, it gets me excited because I'm just thinking about how we were talking about you being in the Marines, and you could literally, if you put your mindset to elevating all things at the same time, you'll be like that soldier who's like running across the battlefield, like injured or with like one arm and like saving someone's life. And
Yeah,
yeah, then maybe of course, there's a place for these things in the real world. I'm not talking about, that was a metaphor, of course, for those tuning in. But what
right.
I mean is that, like, you're not trying to get injured. Like, we're thinking about longevity. We're thinking about health when we're talking about training. So there's only so much energy to go around. If you're putting it all into your training, then maybe there's going to be other things that do take a back seat, right? If we're talking about catering to it in a healthy way, which again, the Marines can not be healthy sometimes from a physical standpoint, right? Just because you can adapt and you can train your mind to do it doesn't mean it's good for you in the long
Right.
run, right?
That's so true. Yes.
Yeah. So that's why I
Very
wanted to bring that up in case, someone young is listening, they get the wrong idea and then they start crushing themselves in the gym on the daily, right?
correct, correct. And that's the way as we talked about, that's the way to get injured. I've seen it too many times. And even with my young client, shout out to Gabe. I'll be seeing you in about 30 minutes. He wants to go in there even as he's now depleted because he's, already lost like 20 pounds to get in amazing shape. I'll send you some pictures of him too. He'll go in there and he's grunting, pushing, pushing. I'm saying, okay, that's enough. stop. You don't need to
Yeah.
go, you need to conserve your energy, because right now, if you're doing this, you're going to get hurt. And he's feeling it, and he's still in school. He's also got a second job, a job with school in high school. So I say, look, you got to find that balance. There is a balance with everything in life. And if you're killing your central nervous system, as we've talked about, because you're trying to kill it and you feel like you have to annihilate yourself and put it on social media that, hey, I crushed it, I killed, I did this. It's not an ego thing. Just go in there, make yourself to where you're stimulating it just enough to make that progress. Make sure you're getting that nutrition in, getting that sleep, focus on school. There's so many things in life that you don't want to bring down low just so you can be the best bodybuilder or classic physique or whatever it is. So it's all about life balance. It's
I
a
love
tough
it.
thing. We got to learn it. Yeah.
Yes, it is a tough thing. It takes skills, wisdom, experience, learning. There's so much involved. And hopefully this podcast is helpful to those tuning in who, I mean, it's a reminder for me, like our conversations help me personally. So that's like, imagine, you have a young guy, he's tuning in. It's like, well, hopefully he's taking something really good from this. And maybe even some of the older guys, it's like a refresher, right?
Yeah, it is. And I've learned from a lot of older guys. I've listened to some guys like Sean Sullivan. Shout out to him too. He's late 50s and he's done a lot. He's been in the military, recently retired, law enforcement. And I get a lot of disciplinary things and tidbits and nuggets of wisdom from him. And the more you seek out that wisdom from people, especially listen to your podcast, I love listening to all the athletes that you have on, because a lot of them I've competed against or good friends with, and I just want to see what they do. And the great thing, and you already know this, we all have a lot of similar things that we do, but we also have our own personal things that we do because it's just who we are. Like, we all have our ways of doing things. None of it's perfect, none of it's like the best and the only way to do it, but you can always take a little bit of nuggets of wisdom from every single person.
I love it. With regards to your training, was there anything different that you did leading up to the Olympia contest? I know that was a few weeks. How many weeks later after the Mr. America? Must have been what, 4 or 5 weeks, or
4 or 5 weeks. Yeah, exactly. So that helped out. And I actually